You ever think to yourself, when you go to look at your notes, you have no idea what you wrote or what they mean or how this is all supposed to be connected? Well, cool. You're in the right spot. In yesterday's video, which was the first of this multi-part series on capturing your notes, organizing your notes, and then putting them into tasks and calendars, doing a review as part of an overall content creating system, yeah, we're going to talk about notes today. This is almost the last video of my Nice to Know, Nice to Have November series, where I talk to you about the things I wish I knew or the things I wish I had when I started my content creation journey. Now, there's tons of people out here showing you these really cute and elaborate content creation systems, and there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I'm a little weird and I'm kind of here for it. But the problem I found with all of these systems is it wasn't mine. Okay, I can look at many people with these gorgeous Notion templates or what is that other app? Oh my God, my brain just went dumb. ClickUp or Asana, Monday, Tuesday, AkiFlow, whatever. There's thousands of these guys out there, and even TickTick and Things and OmniFocus. And if these apps don't mean anything to you, good. This is cool because I'm showing you how to do this the most simplest way possible. Then you can figure out your system and adapt it to what you need for you to work for your brain. My brain is broken. It's super weird. So I got to do things my way, Frank Sinatra. All right, so let's talk about, yesterday we talked about capturing, which was this idea of just jotting things down wherever you could, little notebooks, pieces of paper, little index cards. And what happens with these is these become a mess. They're all over the place. It's one of the reasons why I absolutely, positively love/despise Post-it notes, because you'll write random stuff down. And then if you do not transfer it into your system, you will find out you got notes of paper. You have no idea what they mean. So I kind of went away from Post-it notes, and I really loved them, especially when they were all color, all over the board. But I don't do that anymore. Okay. So yesterday was a video about capture. Please review that if you haven't seen this. Today we're going to talk about moving stuff into your notes, because one of the most important things about your capture system is it must absolutely be cleared out. You must clean your capture system, and the way you clean that is moving it over to a note system, right? It's almost like the blackboard in school. Teacher wrote down all these notes and you were feverishly trying to copy those notes. We'll talk about that in a second. Feverishly trying to copy those notes before somebody erased the board. And you'd copy it all down, and you would get home and you would look at your notes and you'd be like, what that is, right? So we're going to talk about that. So in the process of transferring your stuff, I'm going to give you a couple simple steps first. Those of you who have beautiful handwriting, God bless your soul.
I'm the one.
He ain't that. But you can take a photo of your notes with your phone. I tend to do, in most cases, is in Apple Notes. You're going to click on the little paper clip there, and right there on the bottom it says scan document. So you would just click that to scan a document, hold it over your notes, and it will automatically take a picture once it's in the right position. So those of you guys who got good handwriting,
Who are you?
you're square. You already covered half of the work. For those of you who don't, you have the option of either typing it in by hand, maybe dictating it, because you can dictate and have it auto-translate on the fly. I covered this in a different video, but I'll just do it again. As I am recording the audio, I'm basically talking about transferring these notes into your system. If I were to click on the pencil up here, I could rename that note. But as we sit here and do this, it's basically going to write this note. If I were to click on the little quotation box down here on the bottom, it's actually live transcribing what I am saying as the time I'm transcribing it. So if you're looking at your notes, something that you jotted down, this is a good way to add more context, add more information, and backfill that quick jot note into something that's really tangible that you can store into your notes. A lot of people don't realize that you can do this, but this is one of the massive updates of iOS 18, is if you just scrub some notes on the paper, like I wrote on this card here, there's a note where I wrote, what to do when you get busy is a title for a video that I plan to put in the series next month as a way of explaining to you what you should do as a content creator when you get busy. And so these are all being transcribed right here in this phone, and the Celtics are winning. Look at that right there. Celtics are winning. So if I open this back up again, it's still recording. It's writing everything down. At any given moment, I just press stop, and then I press done, and it's going to add that to the note. And again, if I click on here, I can say, move this transcript summary to the note, right? So I click on view summary, and then I can just add that summary to the note. So bunch of different ways you could do it. Scan it in, type it in like normal, or dictate that note. One thing I'm going to add to this, which I think is super clutch, please, for the love of whomever, tag these notes. Tag them. Tags can get messy. It doesn't matter. It will help you find it later, because when you're doing your notes process, you must protect you from the future you.
Dear future me.
Today, we're talking about the Fujifilm X-M5. Tomorrow, I'm talking about that small travel camera, because I can't remember that it's the Fujifilm X-M5. So in my tags, I would put compact camera, small camera, travel camera, tiny camera. Just tag it. You're not going to spend extra money having extra tags. It doesn't matter what you tag it. Just tag it. Trust me, when you write notes, you must always protect yourself from the future you. Okay? So trust me. Trust me on this. Okay. Now, I have an idea of 2 notes, right? A dual system. My Apple Notes is my kind of collection and jotting system. So again, I capture with papers, I capture with pictures, I capture with little pieces of paper, and I write them in Apple Notes. Apple Notes is my forever running massive book. I actually prefer to capture in drafts or bare notes, but I started using Apple Notes when iOS 18, when I first started messing with the beta back in June, because A, Apple Notes was getting better. B, Apple Intelligence is going to help you work off a personal context. So Apple's going to need to have full access to those notes. And for right now, natively it's Apple Notes. And then C, as I'm teaching you guys, giving you the most budget-friendly option is the one that's already built in. So while there's myriads of other notes apps out there, I suggest your first line of defense be Apple Notes, or for those of you who are on Android, Google Notes or Google Docs, whatever the case may be. Again, not my familiarity, but it's whatever is built into your phone. Then my second note is, for me, Notion. Notion is my composition book. This is where I rewrite my notes and put them down with clarity, with purpose, with design. This is my commonplace book, or my Zettelkasten. This is my permanent notes, right? So just like in school, or just like I was speaking of, if you were the person who scrubbed down the notes really, really quickly from the blackboard, the way to make it stick would be to rewrite those notes with more addition, with more clarity. And the key thing for those of you who didn't learn this in school, trust me, I did not, is when you rewrite those notes, these are going to be your permanent notes. Your first notes are your sort of fleeting notes. This is what it's called the way I learned it in his book called Taking Smart Notes by Sonky Aarons. I'll put the link to the description in the description. But it's the idea of taking just whatever you write down and taking literature notes. Like if you read a website, you see something cool, take a little note, right? Read a book, you take a little note. But you're going to transfer those into your permanent notebook. And again, for me, that's Notion. You're going to sort of self-test yourself. You're going to double check your ideas. You're going to ask yourself, why did I write this down? You're going to clarify that note by what is in it for me, with them. Why did I write this one particular thing down?
What does it all mean?
As this piece of paper that I wrote about this video that I want to make, what to do when you get busy, as I transferred that to my permanent notes, I wrote that down because I was on the live stream with Katie. We were doing the flow, and we were talking with Cassie Tucker, and she brought up the idea of what, as a creator, she does when she gets busy. If family gets in the way or vacation or something, she has things in place or systems in place to allow the content wheel to continue to flow. Because where new content creators get broken is the first time they get busy, their little system goes to, and it's just gone. It's just gone. That little censor button probably didn't work because I have the situation turned down. But normally what happens when a creator gets to their first time busy and they're a new creator, they get completely derailed. So one of the things you do for consistency is you build in contingency plans for those moments where you might get derailed. Okay, so going back to notes, I like to take them and transfer them into my permanent system. And I tend to do that on review days. You technically should do it every day. I'm not there yet. I do it on my review day. I move my little bits and bobbles into a neat little pile, and then I put them in Notion where they go. If I'm not ready to move them in Notion, cool. They can live in Apple Notes because it's still searchable, whatever. But when I go to act upon that note later and I find it in Apple Notes, I often like, hey, I better move this over to the permanent side. But remember, when you move it to the permanent side, test your theories, make sure that everything makes sense to you. And key element, rewrite it in your own words, rewrite why it meant to you, make it new, rechange the way it was taught to you to a way that makes sense to you. So for instance, I say the capture system must be cleaned. That's an old David Allen technique, but I teach it as erasing the blackboards, right? After you wrote all these notes down, you got to move it to something permanent so you can erase the blackboard to go take more notes. So that's the way I connected it, because I connected it back to school. But you move it however you move, just like that. That's up to you. Okay. Then it's very important that you add your little sauce, you elaborate it a little bit, you make it so that it makes sense to you. I tend to use weird mnemonics. I tend to remember things based off of lyrics on songs, all myriad things. You just use however you use to get your permanent notes. And last but not least, that's where you want to add your sources. Now, I thought of something the other day because I was cleaning out the screenshots on my computer. It's that end of year time to clean out the computer. So I'm cleaning out the screenshot folder and I run into some screenshots that don't make no dang sense to me. When you do your weekly review, take the screenshots that are meaningful, move them to Apple Notes or Google Notes or whatever, and write a little blurb or dictate a little blurb as to why you took that particular screenshot. Make it make sense for your future you. This is what I mean by protect yourself from the future you. So trust me, I just started that recently. I don't know why I haven't done this before, but when you go through your review section on your Sundays, clean out your screenshots, move them someplace that makes sense. Also, at that moment, if you have any screenshots in your folder with secret squirrel information, because like you took a picture of a passport to send it to a trusted individual so they could do something with you, oftentimes those screenshots are left on your computer because you forget to erase them, and then somebody sees them in your computer, they can get access to all your stuff. You know what I mean? That's how celebrity special pics get sent out over the internet because they forget to delete them.
You know, I got some naked pictures of your mom.
The last thing I want to bring up about notes, which I think is also important, this kind of should have been in the capture page, but I didn't think about it at the time. I find that one of the advantages of having a little notebook like this that you carry around if you have a bag, or if you're packing light that day, a little notebook that you carry around like such, is that when you get idle time, instead of doom scrolling, bust out your notebook and dump the brain. You get in the habit of resetting the brain and clearing your thoughts. Okay, so for instance, let's give you an exact example. You go to the restaurant, you arrive 10 minutes early, your table's not ready, they go have a seat, we'll get to you. Good moment in time to bust out your notebook and just dump thoughts that you had in your brain. Because more than likely on the drive over, you remember something you forgot at work, you remember something you forgot about content creation, whatever, just jot it down. Or you're having a lovely conversation at dinner. I tend to go to dinner when I'm on trips with my other creator friends. And then when we're done, you're about to wait, you desert everything over, you waiting for the check. I'm with creators. Give me a second. Let me write what we talked about down so I don't forget. They understand because they create. And if they don't understand, be like, excuse me, I'm not being rude. I am taking notes.
I am serious. I'm taking notes.
Most people will let it slide. Most people will understand. So if you get in the habit of, instead of going to grab the phone and social and just start looking for weird stuff to be mad about, take out your notebook and do a brain dump whenever possible. It will make your life a lot simpler. That is, in a nutshell, again, you want to transfer all your capture notes, your reading notes, your fleeting notes, and you want to move those into your permanent system. I believe in a 2-notebook system, Apple Notes and Notion. That may change. You can use whatever you want. I'm not telling you to use Apple Notes and Notion. I'm saying this is free, so it's very easy to get down. You might just go Apple Notes and folders of better notes inside of Apple Notes. I just like the organization and the other way you can have multimedia clippage going on in Notion, and Apple Notes is getting better for that. And then as you go through there, remember, you can scan them in, you can dictate them in, you can type them in, whatever works for you. As a matter of fact, with an iPad, you can write it in with your pencil. Speaking of other note app, I've been messing with GoodNotes a lot because it gives a cross between two, the free handwriting plus the digital. And you can record while you're writing, so that way you have an audio connection. Remember to protect your future self. Remember to add that you to it. Why did this note spark my interest? Why did this intrigue me? Why did I believe this was right? Why did I believe this was BS? Like, write that down. Another thing is, as I'm transferring, when I say test yourself, I mean, does this really make sense? Do I really believe what this person said? Should I look for some contradictions? Can I compare those contradictions? It's a way to stop you from getting a cognitive bias. And then, use as many systems as you need to make it work for you. You really have to make it work for you. I don't think you should go and grab a template because it won't make any sense to you, because it won't be exactly how you want it. This has been another video in my Nice to Know, Nice to Have November series, and I can't believe, like, tomorrow's the last day. It's 30 days. Just, wow. It went by really, really fast. But I hope this helps you find a way as we roll into the new year to clean your notes out and get it in a manner that it works better for you. Because we all are victims of taking copious notes about something and never referring to it again and have no idea what you wrote when you go to look at it later. So I want to solve that because I know that's how it works for me. So I want to solve that for you. Hopefully this helps. If you have any suggestions about this note-taking stuff, please drop it down in the comment section below. If you have any questions, because I went kind of fast, write that down in the comment section below. If you have any ideas or whatever, let us know. Any notes apps I should check out, let us know. I am all about it. This is a community-driven thing, and it's really up to you guys so that we can all help each other create better. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. This video and all the videos in this series are sponsored by me, Doc Pops. That's right. I am Doc. I am the creator of these lovely, cool acoustic foam covers that you put in your microphone that will help handle plosives, take out some of that background noise, and make you look absolutely fresh while you're doing it. So if you got to sound fresh, you might as well look fresh. Check out Doc Pops at docpops.com or docmerch.com. There is also a little YouTube shelf down here in the bottom you can click and get in. Please go and check it out. And I am super happy to make these videos for you. So right now, the algorithm is going to show you another video you should probably check out. Go ahead and give it a click.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet.